Hi, Mom.
Hi, honey.
So, welcome y'all to uh read
Read
your
the clue.
read your clue recap with Danny and Angie, your favorite mother-son duo, on The Amazing Race, season 36. My name's Danny,
Woohoo! And I'm Angie, otherwise known as Mama B.
and we are from Walla Walla,
Walla
Washington.
walla.
The city's so nice it named it twice. But bear with us, y'all. This is our first time doing some podcasting, but we're excited. I don't know, Mom, just to talk about the season. Give us a recap of like what happened leg one. What were the behind the scenes? So how
It
hot
was super fun. It was so hot. I'm just going to just get that out on the ground right now. It was so hot. And people on the screen, they can't even begin to portray it unless you like zoom in and look at Rod and Derek and Vinny and all those really tough guys. They were pouring sweat. So it was tough.
it was a hard day, but honestly, what a cool opportunity because we're on the Amazing
Amazing
Race.
race!
So sweet. Well, what a long process, like really, really cool. And we're so grateful that it's actually coming out. And we're just going to give you a recap of like what actually went down episode one. So, episode mama. Wow. I can't talk. I'm
He gets
nervous.
excited talking about the Amazing Race.
Oh, true. So, episode one, we're at the starting line. Phil is there. Mom, what is going through your head?
Well, I think Rohan and Maya had mentioned it before, but we saw 13 buoys out in the water on the beach where we were lined up to go. And I was thinking to myself already, oh my goodness, we're going to have to do some serious swimming because they were in a perfect oval. And I think Rohan and Maya were saying the same thing. So as you're sitting on the beach getting ready, you're strategizing about where you're going to have to go to get that first clue. And of course,
I
it had nothing to do with that.
I completely forgotten about that, but you're right. Like
Yeah.
Rohan and Maya were standing right behind us, and I saw the buoys, and there was
Mm-hmm.
13, and I could have sworn because you're thinking is Amazing Race. I'm like, they're all yellow and red, and
Yep.
so I was already like ready. I'm like, all right, I don't have my swimsuit out. I'm just gonna have to go jump in the ocean.
Yep,
Like,
we
good
just talked about it. We were just going to go full board, shoes in, everything. It was so hot, it didn't matter. We were almost welcoming the idea, and I was already thinking, okay, I'm going to back swim. I'm going to So we were like, okay, this could be really fun start. But
but
it
and
wasn't. It was
I
running
know.
it was running out to our cars, through the hotel, and finding our car for the first race.
And like in the very starting clip, there's a little clip of me saying, Mom, it's okay. We don't have to run fast. You're doing great.
Mom, we don't have to go fast. You're doing great.
But what people said, people were like, oh, wow, Danny's slowing down for his mom. No, you don't win the Amazing Race in racing to your car. I'm sitting there going, our adrenaline is high.
Yep.
Like if we are sprinting to our car and ripping it open, we are not going to be able to focus. Why we recognize, sure, it's a race. We can get to our car and I was like, okay, we can follow some teams. We can see some teams asking for directions. But I was like, I want to have a clear head when I'm ripping open that first.
We didn't want to get there and just be all like, oh. And the other thing is what the cameras didn't show is Chris wasn't the only one to fall. There was another person that fell too. And they had just had a storm. So the grass was wet. It was slick. And so I was like, okay, I don't want to start off the race with a broken leg. So I didn't feel a sense of urgency to sprint to the car. I just felt a sense of urgency to think clearly.
Yeah. And Mom decided to save being on the ground for maybe a future episode, which we may have seen in the commercial for next week.
Only because I'm going to get something else clearly out. So you notice that there were 2 opportunities and 2 detours. And my son promised me when we went on this race.
Hey, wait. We'll get to detours later.
No.
No, we'll get to detours later. You're jumping
Wow.
ahead of yourself. But we open that first clue and it says what?
It says
to drive to the Voladores, right?
Oh, yes. Which was fun because we got to the Voladores And there was that white pole, and it had little, look like climbing things on it. And we thought, we're going to have to climb this to get our clue. The boys weren't the only ones. They were like all out. They were ready. So, because we got there about the same time as they did. So,
Yeah. So what they didn't show, I'm going to give all you viewers, we have a lovely map. All right, right here's to the right, just giving you a little bit of like, all right, where did we travel? So we started at the Westin Resort, which is where you can see that little dot. And then the Voladores was about 25 minutes away. And so we stopped, pulled over, got directions, and then we're able to kind of go straight there to the Voladores. They show teams arriving. I think we arrived like 10th. There was multiple teams, but parking was so hard. There was
really
no
hard.
parking. There was like cars everywhere. And I remember being like, we had to go up and down the street just to find an open parking space.
And I literally had my windows down and I had my hands out and I was like, please stop, please stop. And I was talking to all the drivers and honking my horn, and I was being a pretty aggressive driver. You had to, or you would have just sat there forever.
So, but I remember what we got to the clue box. We open it up, and it is the first detour. And what was that detour? It was like pin them up or put them up or pin them down.
Yep. And that's the very first time that I just thought to myself, okay, we're on the Amazing Race. This is Danny's dream. And I just want him to call all the shots. And I trusted him for that and that he would take care of me that day. However, I quickly learned that I was going to have to pull the mom card a couple times because he thought it would be fun to do the physical challenge. So, and as it has been pointed out that this woman could qualify for a geriatric Amazing Race, it was not the best way for us to start in 100 degrees and 100-degree humidity. So, yeah.
Okay, but there's a little bit of like backstory to why I will take all the blame. And mom, like first episode was like, Danny, like you do whatever you want. Did I learn a lot that day? Yes. We'll talk about some of the lessons that we learned, but I was like, oh, we had just watched 2 weeks ago was season 34. And it was the challenge we had just seen on the Mega Leg, the challenge where it was like study the anatomy test and go take an anatomy lecture, then take a test. And the lecture was every 8 minutes, or deliver a physical block of cheese. Also, in previous recaps, I've been like, always do the physical because the physical is straightforward. It's where we need to go. You just need to ask for directions. Look at me. I'm a skinny individual who cannot lift 80 pounds of rocking horse.
But he does run half marathons pretty regularly.
I do. But I love memory. Like mom's had us on puzzles, like training us in memory challenges since I was a little kid. My friends are like, Danny, you're great at memory. So when we got there and I chose a physical challenge.
And I write lesson plans and I memorize my science lessons every day. I mean, we would have been in and out of there. You know, it might have taken us a couple times, but it definitely would not have exhausted us to the point that the next preview shows me laying on the ground.
Oh, but I remember something that they didn't show is we were right next to Sean and Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
And Sean and Michelle were like, let's go find the rocking horses together. And so we end up running down the street and it's numbered. And I'm sitting there going, oh, we just need to follow the number. Let's not ask for directions because that's going to take time. So we just start running.
And we were running. We started off this race jogging. I'm not a sprinter, but I can jog 3 or 4 miles with my pack on. And so we started running. And then we turned left. I'll remember that. And all of a sudden we're running and it goes uphill. And it continues to go uphill. So it was like there was no break. It was just up.
And you had trained for the race. Like we both had trained. Like I had done stairs. Like I've been training with my pack. Mom, you were running like what, 4 miles, 3 miles with your pack. But it does change things when it's 100 degrees outside, like even some of the most physical teams. And so I realized like, all right, we just need to take our time, be smart about this so that we don't get eliminated. Now, was choosing the horses smart? No.
And there's even a point, I don't know if they'll show it or if they showed it, but I said, what part of smarter was this and not harder, honey?
Not harder, I know. So we're with Sean and Michelle, but we end up getting lost. And so we're like, all right, Sean and Michelle, we'll see you later. Like we end up getting separate directions, and then we end up getting to the horses. When I saw how heavy the horses were, I went,
Yeah.
oh no. And these little wheels, they were like rickety horses.
So we started moving the horses, and then it took us just a hot minute to figure out, put the packs on the horses, right? So that was something. But then once you put the packs on the horses, it changes the balances of them.
What do you mean by that? So
It
like,
changed the balance. The
we
horses
put
would
our
lean to
packs.
the left or lean to the right. We took our backpacks off, put them on the horses just to get that off of our back. But it was leaning to the left and leaning to the right. And of course, Danny had the heavier one. And so the backpack set that off balance. And then we kept the roads were super narrow. And all I could think of is we're going to hit a car. And so we just had to go slow and steady. And that's what we did. So, I'm glad they didn't show too much of us on that, because it was like, it was like the clock ticking.
It
was a long time.
You saw in the clip, like me being like, hey mom, can you come back and help me in some of it? Like it was so heavy. I had bruises covering my legs.
Oh, we were both covered in bruises.
Slashed in the cars. Yeah. And the challenge probably took us an hour and a half to 2 hours. When we get to the bottom though, there is this fun thing. We have to take off the wheels to the horse, and we have to use the tool that Claire used, the Allen wrench, in the Ferrari motorcycle challenge. And I remember Claire wasn't sure how to use it. So I was like, okay, I'm not a tool guy, but I was like, I'm going to know how to use an Allen wrench. And so I gave her a shout out in the episode, but unfortunately, they didn't air that part. But when we got to the bottom and we're taking things off, we were in last place. Like, of the people who chose.
Everybody was gone. And even the kids were gone. There was one child left that we handed the clue to. But we were like, I'm like, oh man, this is it. This is the end. So I felt so bad. It was just like, oh, so there was this little bit of doom in your heart. And you're thinking you're in last place, but you have to stay positive and you can't quit, because you just never know. So that's one thing I loved about watching Rob and Corey is, super positive. And I so felt for them when I saw Corey doing the hat challenge and he had been in last. And I was like, don't give up. You just never know. You never know. Because I'd been there. So.
Yeah. And to give y'all a little bit, so we're going to show you a little bit of the To Detour. So the pin 'em down, the wrestling was this first image on the left. It was only a 4-minute walk from where the clue was. Very, very close, right close to all of the cars. An easy memory challenge, piece of cake. On the right side, it was a 10-minute walk straight uphill. But then in taking the horses down the hill, they had roads all blocked off because of safety to the right. So we had to go about a half a mile all the way to the left down these. It was just
it seems like Danny, it was like 3 miles when we were done. I mean, we had a lot of steps in. I don't know if we just went the wrong way, but Danny and I ended up getting a lot more than just the 10-minute walk in. What we were actually walking probably an hour.
It took us I think about 2 hours was how long it took.
It was, so in that heat and with the horses, it was exhausting.
So we get to our clue. We get the clue. It tells us to drive to a rodeo. And I'm sitting there going, all right, we're going to stop, get great directions, because directions is what wins and loses you the amazing race sometimes. And so I'm sitting next to this really nice person, just sitting there, detailing all the directions down, writing them all down. Now, would it have been smarter to get a map like half of the teams did in the episode? Yeah.
I don't know, because they struggled to read the map, and you would get very specific directions from people's phones. And so you knew which parts, and Danny actually spoke really good Spanish. And so he was able to communicate. And I felt like when we stopped, Danny, you did amazing, honey, with directions. I really feel like that's what saved us that day.
So they show a gap of us leaving 11th, and then all of a sudden we are at the rodeo 5th.
Yep.
That is because of the directions. I went straight.
And I think Danny cried again.
Oh, did I cry again, Mom? Oh,
and if you didn't, then I did.
So So here is an image. So that we left the Voladores at the bottom, and then we drove all the way up north, which was about a 30-minute drive to this rodeo area. And when we got there and there were tons of clues left, I'm like,
He was so
no
excited.
way. And so you see the second clip of me crying, saying we're still in it. That's because of all the clues. I was like, I went from we're going home and we are racing for last
You're
to
constantly in this total emotion roller coaster, right? Oh, you're last. Oh, maybe we have a chance. You're last. That's why you have to keep it positive the whole time and keep one foot in front of the other. And just, we were so thankful each time we saw people. It was like we were sad for them, but we were thankful for us that we weren't last.
And for that leg, like every morning, me and mom, like, hey, we read our Bible, we prayed, but we had like a verse of the day. And I think that verse of the day was like 2 Corinthians like 2:19, like, hey, my grace is sufficient for you in your weakness and is made perfect through your weakness. And I felt pretty weak. I felt physically exhausted. And I knew like, hey, with me and mom, like we had a God who carried us throughout the first part of the leg, who was there.
We read the real clue each morning. We read the clue that reminded us that God was with us. And whether we went home that day or not, we knew that our job was to honor him. And so in doing this, we really hope that was apparent.
Yeah. So a lot of joy from Team Walla Walla, even though we were exhausted during that first half of the leg. So we end up getting to the rodeo.
Okay, I have to say this. Danny really did. I took him to the fair when he was a little kid, and we put him on one of those ponies that's attached to like all the 4 ponies. Fair's big here in our town, and he fell off when the ponies were going and kind of got stuck under a pony. He didn't get hurt, but that was very traumatic. He's probably about 4. So Danny does not have a fan of horses. So, and I love horses. I grew up rodeoing and I love horses. So at first when we saw the clue, and saw we were in a rodeo, I was thinking, I get to ride a horse. I was so excited. But then when Danny actually read the clue, what was it, honey?
It was like, who's feeling loopy? And I immediately, like, when you go to a roadblock, or like what I've heard from past racers and listening to racers recap and lots of other things, is like, get context clues, understand what you're going in. I saw there was people lassoing, and I immediately went like, all right, we're going to be lassoing people. But mom, yeah, she grew up in the rodeo scene. She'd been barrel racing. She had done all of these things. And I was like, oh, mom would probably kill a rodeo challenge, but mom was a little tired.
But
I was tired.
If there was anything physical at that point besides riding a horse, I looked at Danny and thinking we were last anyways, I wanted him to just have the full meal deal. And so he's like, I want to do this. And I'm like, go for it.
Hats and handkerchief at all time while performing this roadblock.
Make sure it's on there tight.
Yep. So I actually do not like horses. My mom took me to a pony fair when I was little, and I fell off the little ponies and was scarred from horses. So this task has me a little shaking in my boot.
All right, you got it, baby. Oh, look at the horses.
Thank you, because I don't.
Right. So it's who's feeling loopy, and it's jumping through loops. They have a loop thing and it's jumping through. And I jumped through just fine. And so I was like, oh, this is going to be really easy. I get to the actual rodeo. Mom's in the stand, and it's us and Karishma and Kishori. And right when I rolled up, I saw that Karishma did not have her red bandana on.
Yeah.
And me and mom, I'd like to think, are pretty kind human beings. My gut instinct went, I need to tell her. Like, she didn't read her clue. And you see Mary making the mistake of telling Juan and Shane where to go. But I just kept my mouth shut. I was like, if I'm racing for last right now.
Yeah. And part of that was survival too. I think you were focused so much on just trying to get it done too. So
I think
what they don't see is that you actually had to take a break because you were physically done too. And you had to have water. I had to toss you the water. You had to just pause for a minute. There was no shade. There was no nothing. There was no escaping the heat. It was miserable. It was miserable.
It was miserable, but also the best day of my life because I was on the Amazing Race. Like, we were thriving, but was the heat miserable? Yes. But were we both having fun being with each other on the Amazing Race?
Yes. I will just separate that. I just thought, okay, this could be a lot more fun in 70-degree weather as opposed to 100-degree with the humidity.
But still very, very grateful for the race. And we were sitting there. So I was jumping through the things. My first attempt, I jumped through the first 5 lassos like that, got to the 6th person, messed up. Did it again, made it through the first 5 guys, 6th lasso, messed up. I kept going and would make it through the first 5 lassos, and then every single time the 6th guy would trip me up. And I'm sitting there going, "Do you have a grudge against me? Is it the way that I look? Am I like?" But I was sitting there going, maybe I was just getting tired by the time I got to the 6th one.
He
But I
didn't
made
give
it.
up. He didn't give up.
But what they didn't show is I was exhausted, like physically. I was like jumping up and down why it's hot. And so I had to take a break. I sat in the shade. I took a glass of water real quick. This was why other people were going. So I wasn't losing a ton of my place in line. But what we got there, Karishma left. Juan and Shane came and left. Who else came and left? Like Mel and Evo came and left. And then Michelle and Sean showed up. And Michelle and Sean were ahead of us at the horses. So then my mind went to, this is the last team again. They were the ones that left right before us at the horses.
There were a lot of moments where we thought we were last constantly. And you just, that's a mental battle because you have to stay positive. Yeah.
So once I got through it, I was like, let's go. Come on. I was like, I'm not scared of horses. I am going to grab that clue and get out of here with Mom. And so
just to be fun, they didn't show this, but Danny's always worried that I'm going to lose the keys. So once we actually got out of that challenge, I don't know if you remember that, Danny, and we got to the car. I stood at the car for a minute and I went, I can't find the keys. It was so funny because his face just dropped. I'm like, just kidding.
So we're at the car. I got my clue. We're racing to the car. And as we're leaving, we see Vinny and Amber driving around. Remember when we looked over and I was like, that's Vinny and Amber.
And I think you started crying again. Only this time it was in joy because you knew we weren't last.
You're right. I was like, it's Vinny and Amber. We're fine. But then that was fun. We got directions to the mall.
And we got good directions. You got good directions. And we got straight to the mat without any problem. So there was one time I wanted you to stop because we didn't go far enough and it felt like we'd gone too far. So I did make you stop one more time and get directions. Yeah.
So it was just literally reverse all the way back. The pit stop was right next to the Mollicone. So very, very close. But
and then we get out, we get our backpacks.
That was something you asked me. You were like, I need to stop. Like, we need to ask for directions. And I had told myself, like, because I had messed up earlier with the detour, I learned very quickly. I went, if Mom asked me to do something, I'm going to trust her. Like, that is something that people make mistakes in previous amazing races. They don't listen to their partners. They think that they can do it all. And they've been talking a little bit about the podcast of like the mother-son duo. The mistake they made is the mom just going along with what the son wants to do.
Yeah. And I didn't want to overuse it, but there were times Danny was mentally at that point in time, which is his strength, mental, right? Danny and physical, but Danny was exhausted. And I just thought, we just need to double check because I knew we had a couple teams behind us and I thought we were okay at that point in time, but I didn't want to mess up. I didn't want to drive. I was doing all the driving and I didn't want to go the wrong way. So we just stopped.
But then as we're coming up to the finish line, the pit stop, we're pulling up. I see a car pulling up behind us.
That was scary.
And I turn around and I see the twins. And we haven't seen the twins all day. And so in my mind, I go, oh, are we racing again for last? I just yell at Mom. I'm like, Mom, run.
Run.
Or stuff out of the car and Mom sprints to the mats.
Yeah, I put on the old track star finish on that one because I didn't know. I didn't even look around. I could hear my coach saying, don't turn around. Don't look behind you. Never look behind you. So I just ran. I had no idea who he had seen. I didn't know it was the twins. I didn't know who it was. And so I just ran. I saw Phil and boom. As a matter of fact, I think I almost pushed into him. So yeah, because he was like, whoa. And they don't show that, but then they just show us on the map and then it was the twins. So.
And what was fun is like we got to the mat, we beat the twins. In my mind, I'm like, I just had a foot race to the finish line of the amazing race. Like, I was so happy. I was like, this is awesome. everything you want as a super fan. Is I'm like, I got a foot race to the finish. I got to do a roadblock. I made a mistake in choosing the wrong detour. Like, it was a day full of decisions, but it still was so much fun until Phil turns around.
Oh, I thought I was going to die.
Pulls out a clue that
And
says,
said, keep
keep
on
on
racing.
racing.
I just knew then that it was over. I was like, I have nothing. I have nothing left. And so again, back to our real clue in the morning that we'd read that day, and just another clue from the Word of God that I just wasn't a clue. Their promises was, I can do all things through Him who strengthens me. And I just knew that being on this race was His deal for us, and that He would take me off this race when He was done. So I was like, okay, I'm going to put one foot forward at a time and just keep racing and go for it. So
yep. And so that
until
was
they either have to take me away on a stretcher, right? Or they say you're eliminated.
And so that is a recap of episode 1, but the fun commercials for episode 2
Maybe
looks
they
dramatic.
take me away on a stretcher.
We won't spoil anything, but definitely tune in next Wednesday. But before we conclude, we actually have some special guests who are going to join us. So looking forward to that. But that is a recap. If you have questions for us, drop it in the comments below. Let us know. But thank you for joining Danny and Angie on Read Your
the Clue.
Clue.
Tune in next week. Woohoo!
Well, to end our podcast and the Read Your Clue recap, we're going to be joined by Maya and Rohan, the siblings last eliminated on the ring. But just wanted to say, like, these two are awesome human beings. We had the opportunity to start the amazing race with them. Rohan and Maya were right behind us, and I remember turning back and being like, Rohan, like, let's stick together this leg. Like, family, we're going to stick together. And was just such a fun opportunity. And it's been a blast to get to know them after the race, fellow super fans. So give a warm welcome to Maya and Rohan.
Woohoo!
Welcome, you two. How's it going?
Hey. It's going great. How are y'all?
Awesome.
Doing well. Mom just left. So she just left San Diego, but I'm doing well. Mom's back in Walla Walla.
Enjoying. We actually have 70 degrees today. What do you guys got there? It looks like there's a little sunshine peeking through.
That's awesome. It feels like spring has finally started to come in New Jersey this past week. As soon as the clocks changed, and now it's late until about 7 o'clock. It's like the best time of the year.
Woohoo!
I just got back to Pittsburgh today, so that's been fun, but the weather's pretty good here too, so I'm excited for that.
Are you in school there, Maya? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm halfway through my junior year, so looking forward to that. But yeah, classes start tomorrow morning.
Wow. Good for you.
Well, good luck. After the crazy week that y'all have probably had with the party in New York, and now getting back to school, probably a little hard, but good luck.
Yep.
And happy belated birthday. Somebody just turned 21.
I know. It was very exciting. It was very, very exciting. I got to order my first drink at a bar during the party, which is interesting, but we had a good time.
That is funny. I mean, speaking of birthdays, you apparently hold some sort of record in the Amazing Race world. What is that?
Yes. I am the youngest contestant to race ever, and I think I'm the first one that's born after the show started airing. I think Karishma might be tied with me on that one, but I was born after season 4 wrapped.
Wow.
Cool.
Wow.
I'm so proud of you guys. I said it before, but how proud your parents and all your friends and all your people must be of you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, we've really felt a lot of support in the past week and since the news has been announced, and it's been really so heartwarming to get all of that reaction from our family.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, speaking of the race and the support, as fellow super fans, y'all have been watching, y'all study different languages to prep for the show. What's kind of your favorite moment? Like, you've done the race, like whether it's pre-race, during the race, after the race, what have been your favorite moments and parts of the Amazing Race experience?
I think it's extremely hard to beat when you're standing there at the starting line, you're all lined up, and Phil says it's time to go. and the world is waiting for you, and you're just standing there in anticipation, ready to go right out of the gate. That has to be my favorite moment of all of it.
I mean, that go moment is just so surreal to be there in person. I mean, as a sister, I would say my favorite moment of being on the race was watching Rohan kill that lasso challenge. It was just so nice to be able to watch it and see it happen. I mean, we both knew that it was like go time. Like, if we wanted any shot at all, we had to get it on that first or second try. And he just went through and he killed it. And it just was so nice to get to see him kill it and do amazing. Because that's all I ever want for him, is for him to do great at things.
Thank you.
It was awesome to watch. As I was watching my son do it like for the 14th time.
Okay, Mom.
So
Okay.
I was like, okay, Rohan just killed it. It was awesome to see that, because I didn't know how long it took anybody else except for the group that was right there with us. So I was so proud of you, Rohan, because I know how hot and tired you guys were.
Thank you so much. And I think the heat, like, you can't necessarily see it from the episode. It was so hot. And that's probably the only reason that we weren't crying at the elimination match, because we couldn't think about that with how hot it was outside. And we're just standing at the rodeo, and I was like, one of the motivating factors is that it was that hot outside. So it was like, do or die.
Yeah.
All the tears were dried up. It's like you tried to cry, immediately evaporated.
Evaporation.
It was. I remember I was mentioning like, I had to sit down, drink some water, because jumping for that long, and I was like, I saw you do it on the first try, and I was like,
yeah, it was you were rock star.
That's awesome.
Rock star solid.
Thank you.
But yeah, what a cool opportunity, like, to get to do it with a sibling. I would have loved to have done it with a sibling, but do I think that we may have fought a lot? Probably.
I guarantee it.
Yeah, so very grateful to have done it with Mom.
Yes. I mean, it's one of those things that's like inherent. Like, whenever you're with your sibling, like, it might not be at first, but when you've been stuck with them in a like overnight,
and the argument was looming.
I love that. Well, you did an amazing job at not letting it loom and show its ugly head, because you guys encouraged each other and you inspired each other and you inspired the rest of the world just by how you treated each other as siblings. It was really honoring.
Which is awesome. So, and I mean, to mention, y'all were purple team, which is like a legendary color. How is it being the purple team on The Amazing Race?
We were so excited when we found out that we were going to be purple. Like, they had asked us like for a couple different colors, and we just said a cool color. We were like, we don't want to be like red, orange, yellow, like, and any of the cool colors would be fine. And they sent us purple, and we were so excited because there are so many teams that have worn purple and have done really well. We've got Will and James,
Derek and Claire,
Nicole and Victor, Raquel and Kayla.
Yep.
So there are a lot of big names that have been purple.
Which is fun that even regardless of y'all's placement, you get to join the like purple crew, which is pretty neat.
Absolutely. So, yes.
That's awesome. Well, next question is kind of race related, but as a super fan, what is a twist or something really cool, like for future seasons of the race, where you're like, this would be awesome to add to the show, or something cool that the race could change?
That's a really good question. I've been thinking about this one for a little bit. The first thing is I really miss the fast forwards. It's been a while since we've had a fast forward, and back in the day, like, they were hard things. Like, there's the head shaving one. There was one where
if I got asked to shave my head, that was the number one list of challenges I was scared of. Like, before he left, I made that list, and that was the number one thing. Like, Rowan would have made me do it anyway, but I was so scared.
Yeah, and what else was there? There was a team that had to get a tattoo back in season 12.
Yep. The FF.
Yes, and eating like sheep's brains. Maya would not have been able to do that one.
Danny wouldn't have either. He couldn't eat anything.
I also like miss some of like the diversity in the flights. Like, when they leave the airport. But a lot of that has to do with the change in commercialization of the airlines rather than the race itself. I don't think that's something that they could just be like, oh, we want to bring that back this season. It really depends on how companies are arranging their flight times.
Yeah. So some fast forwards, bring back to the race. Okay.
Yes, I'm here for it. Maya, you have anything?
I personally like the U-turn. I'm sure if I got U-turned, I would be like crying. But like it brought entertainment value, I will say. If that makes sense. So personally bringing that back might be interesting as a viewer.
True. And you
As a
never know
viewer.
what's going to happen on this season. You'll have to tune in and see if a U-turn makes its way back into the fold this season. But what is for you? So speaking of U-turns, like, would you have had a strategy, or did you have a strategy not to be U-turned? Like, how do you avoid being U-turned?
I feel like you can't really avoid being U-turned. Rohan.
Well, I think had we gotten to a point where we're able to U-turn someone, one, you want to like, you never know how many there's going to be in a season, but if there were going to be like 2, you probably want to save your U-turn for if you're going to be racing the second time, unless you're like the 6th out of 7 teams the first time around and your only opportunity is to U-turn the team that's behind you.
Behind you, yeah.
That's when you want to pull out a U-turn first. I don't think like we necessarily had a strategy to not be U-turned other than to just try and be our authentic selves and try to be as kind to people as the competition would allow, because sometimes that in itself is a strategy. Like the people that are going to get U-turned are either the fastest people if they're a little bit behind, or B, teams that have gone like out of their way to push someone the wrong way. So if you like, you can't really control like if you're in the front of the race, like you're not gonna be like, hey, let me sit back today to not be U-turned. That's not like a valid strategy. But all you can do is be kind and like try not to piss people off.
True. Well, you unfortunately were the team that was eliminated. First season of 13 teams. So unfortunately, you're the second season to have a 13th place. But after y'all's elimination, like, what has the support look like for y'all? How has it been?
I mean, for a lot of the people that have known us our entire lives have known what kind of dream that this has been for us. So the outreach from people has been crazy. We've been getting people that Rohan and I grew up going to school with, all throughout our lives, people that we've been going to college with, our family that have watched us grow up. And that kind of congratulations has meant the world to us, Rohan.
Yeah, if you've known us during any part of our life in the past 15 years, like you've known that this is something that we've wanted to do for a really long time. So even if it is just for one episode, it's really, really special that we were able to accomplish getting onto the show and getting to be a part of it after all. And that's really what made the party and like having all the people there that special, because it doesn't matter if it was high school or college or elementary school, it has been a part of our lives. And I'm proud to call myself a racer and part of the TAR family.
That's awesome. Like you're part of the family.
Yeah.
Like we're part of the family. It's wild. I was sitting there the other day. I was like, oh, I ran the Amazing Race. Like
very
so
surreal.
Cool.
It's insane. And also we have like our cast, I think because we had to wait so long, is particularly close, and we've gotten to talk to them like weekly for like the past year and a half. So that in itself is also special. It was waiting what we all maybe wanted to do? No, but I think it's made us closer and have more special friendships because of it.
Yeah. I would concur. I think it's been some special gifts that have come out with waiting.
Yeah, for sure.
That being one of them. Yeah.
It's been absolutely. Like I got to travel New York, Rohan. We got to hang out with each other, go undercover at the last season finale.
Yes.
What a blast it's been to do life and like have fun in this like newfound family from racing together. And y'all, it was only your first time applying, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Danny, have the two of you submitted multiple applications?
Me and Mom, no, but I applied with my sister back when I was 20 and she had turned 18.
Wow.
So we were trying to take that title from Maya, but Maya and me and my sister, it would have been very entertaining. Yeah.
Yes, it would have been entertaining. I don't know if I could have watched that one.
But so fun and so fun to get to have y'all on just for a little bit and chat with the both of you. But where can our viewers find you if they want to follow you or any projects coming up?
So our Instagrams are definitely the best place if people want to follow us. My handle is at Rohan M00. And Maya, what's your handle?
I'm at Maya M Modi.
Oh, okay. Let me see if I'm able to add this with this really cool StreamYard thing. I
Mr.
don't
Techie.
know. Okay, show headlines. Are y'all able to add a head? All right, what is yours, Rohan?
Rohan M00.
Rohan M00.
Yes.
Right there.
Yep.
And then Maya, what's yours?
Maya M Modi.
Maya M Modi. Okay, wait. Edit name.
Yeah, he's gonna have to know how to spell that one.
Maya M Modi.
Modi, Mody.
Yep.
All right, like that.
Yep, that's it.
Okay, sweet. Well, Team Walla Walla fans or people watching this podcast, you can follow the two of them below at their Instagram handles. But thank you so much, you two. You two are awesome pair of siblings, and
I can't wait to do New York with you guys.
Yes. And we can't wait to watch Danny's super fanship hopefully keep going in the race.
We'll see. So stay tuned next
time. The geriatric patient can make it.
I have no doubts.
We'll see. So next time on The Amazing Race, tune in this Wednesday, 9:30 at CBS. As you saw in the commercial from last week, there may be a little bit of heat stroke. See if we can withstand the heat and make it another episode. But we shall see. Stay tuned and follow. Read your clue recaps.
Woo! Bye, you guys.